What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about, well, winning decks over in OP-10. OP-10 has been out for a couple of weeks now over in Japan. We need to talk about decks that are doing well. I showed you the other day that Lim is actually doing very, very well over in Japan now. It has become one of the best quote-unquote new decks. I know it's not really a new deck, but still. But I'm having a look at results coming around, and I'm seeing a bit of Kid, and I'm seeing a bit of Law. But what I'm seeing more than anything else is the new Usopp. I think, and it is early, I cannot stress this enough, it's early, and we're talking about flagships and store events and things of that nature, smaller events over in Japan. We're not talking giant events, okay? Cannot stress that enough. But right now, what I'm seeing coming out of Japan is that the best deck around right now, in terms of new decks from OP-10, the best new deck around seems to be Usopp, which is the leader I've been hyping the most from this particular set. The one which I think is going to end up being the best, so I don't know. Maybe we were right about that, or maybe not. Again, it's still very early. Now, there's a bunch of different deck lists we could talk about, but let's go for one that won a flagship event. It was Ikiri Kuwagata over on Twitter who shared this deck list, and I just like it because it won a flagship, and I kind of like how the deck list looks. All right? Cool. Also, check out the Don they've gone for. Love the Don here. It's quite nice. But anyway, what we got here is Usopp. Now, in terms of what Usopp actually does, we've got a dual color blue and black Rosa card, and it says that your 2 cost and higher Rosa characters get +1 cost, which is actually sneaky, very, very useful, because it means that cards that go after you because of your cost or whatever will no longer actually work. This is a good thing. Well, okay, they'll work, but they'll be less good. It'll be more effort for them to go after you, and I like this. It's going to make life more awkward for your opponent. This is a very good thing. Then we've got on your opponent's turn, once per turn, when one of your Rosa characters leaves the field by your opponent's effect, or is KO'd, if you have 8 or fewer cards in your hand, draw a card. It's card draw. But what I really like here, and don't get me wrong, the increase in cost is nice. But what I'm really loving here is just you've got the dual color to use all the black and blue Rosa cards combined with drawing. Hopefully, once per turn, you get to draw a card. And if you don't get to draw a card on your opponent's turn, it means that you haven't lost a character. That sounds fine by me. So going through then the list as a whole, we've got ourselves 1 cost Suru. Well, come on. It's 1 cost Suru. It's a phenomenal card. Came around in OP-02. It's got counter +2k. And on play, you give one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn, which is, of course, something that black decks want to do a lot. Suru has been an absolute staple in black decks for a long time at this point, so it shouldn't really surprise you to see it popping up here. We've also got ourselves our 1 cost Leo, which has not been a staple in black decks, because it's not black, and hasn't been around for all that long. This is a one from OP-10, and we got 1 cost 2k, counter +1000, but on play, you can rest your leader or stage, and if your leader is Usopp, but again, you can rest your stage, it just has to be your leader is Usopp. You don't have to rest Usopp, it is rest your leader or stage, and then if your leader is Usopp, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find 2 non-Leo Rosa cards, put them at the bottom of your deck, and then you do have to discard a card from your hand, but you're searching out 2 cards? That's a big win, ladies and gentlemen. That's a very big win. Love that you can go and search out multiple cards with Leo here. This is another one of those cards where it's just kind of a no-brainer, honestly. Of course you're going to be playing this in this deck list. And then the last 1 cost we've got is our 1 cost Rebecca. That's the one that we got back in OP-04. And on play, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, find a non-Rebecca Rosa card, add it to your hand, trash the rest. It's like a weaker version of Leo. So essentially you play 4 copies of Leo, because Leo is nuts, and then you're like, oh, I wish I could play another couple Leo. Well, you can't play another couple Leo, but you can play a couple of Rebecca, and you know what? As a consolation, that's not too bad. that'll do quite nicely. Moving away from 1-cost cards then into 2-cost cards, we've got one of my absolute favourites here, One-Legged Soldier, my favourite alt art from Premium Booster 01. Doesn't have any power, but does have counter plus 2k, which is awesome, but it's got to activate main, whereby you trash this character to give one of your opponent's characters minus 3 cost for the turn. It's got a really nice amount of cost being lowered, and it's got counter plus 2k. Add them together, you can see why it's making its way into these Usopp decks. The other one that we've got coming in here is Ideo, and this is just a 2-cost, 2,000 power, counter plus 1,000 blocker. It's a 2-cost Dressrosa blocker. It's nothing special, it's nothing fancy, but it's a 2-cost blocker. Obviously, we're playing the 3-cost Bartolomeo blocker to go slightly out of order here, because it's a 3-cost Dressrosa blocker, it's searchable with all your Dressrosa cards, and it's got counter plus 2k. Obviously, we're playing a playset of Bartolomeo. In Dressrosa decks, Bartolomeo is absolutely absurdly good. But I'm saying Ideo here as an extra blocker is honestly kind of fun. And let's use Bartolomeo as our first 3-cost, because it's actually the only 3-cost in the deck. So not even going out of order. We're doing well. Moving up a bit, we've got ourselves Cavendish. Blue Cavendish, brand new, came around in OP-10, and it's another one you're going to see a lot in these Dressrosa decks. Because what we've got from Cavendish here is 4-cost 6k, no counter, but when attacking once per turn, draw 2, trash 1. It's a draw engine. It's a really nice draw engine. So, yeah, this is one of those. You're just going to see this popping up over and over again in these Dressrosa decks, because it's literally a draw engine. It's phenomenal. We've also got ourselves Roanoa Zoro coming in here, which, again, another new Dressrosa card from OP-10. It's no coincidence that Dressrosa is getting good now. It's not just a new leader we've got. We've also got a whole bunch of new Dressrosa cards. And what we've got from Roanoa Zoro is, on play, you may rest your Dressrosa leader or stage to KO a 4-cost or lower characters and then trash the top 2 cards of your deck. But I've already shown you a bunch of cards like One-Legged Soldier, like Suru, that are lowering your opponent's cost quite nicely. Then you bring in Zoro to get rid of them, and that's awesome. The other 4-cost we've got coming in here is our Frankie. It's another blocker with Ideo and Bartolomeo. That's actually a decent amount of blockers here. And we got 4-cost 5k blocker, and on KO, play a 3-cost or lower Dressrosa character rested from your trash. It's absurdly good, and I've already shown you a bunch of 3-cost or lower, but that will include things like Bartolomeo, which is a blocker, and it's this over Ideo because it's got more power, or something like One-Legged Soldier, which can lower cost quite aggressively. It's brilliant. Love Frankie. Absolutely huge card. Go Frankie. Moving up into bigger cards, they're all blue. We're out of black characters now. We are all just talking about blue characters now. The bigger ones are blue, including Jozu, who is not a Dressrosa card. And like I say, we're going pretty tribal in this deck. Everything I've shown you so far has been a Dressrosa card, and I think everything I'm going to show you from here is a Dressrosa card. I believe this is the one and only non-Dressrosa card in the deck, but it's a staple. You'll see this in pretty much all your Usopp decks. On play, return a character other than this to your hand, and then return a 6-cost or lower character to the original owner's hand. So hopefully here you bounce back something with a decent counter, and then, or even just a counter as a whole. It could be something like Rebecca or Leo, which it's only counter plus 1k, but once they're played, they've done their job. You don't need them on the board. So bounce one of them back to use as a counter, or just reuse the play skill, while also removing one of your opponent's characters from the board. Yeah, you can see why Jozu's seeing a bunch of play here. We've then got our 7-cost Rebecca, which came around in OP-10. It is a super rare 7-cost 4k, counter plus 1,000. And on play, if there is an 8-cost or more character in play, bearing in mind that if you're playing Usopp Usopp will increase the cost of this character by 1, turning it into an 8 cost, so you don't even need to worry here. If you're playing an Usopp deck, which we are, Usopp will increase the cost of all your 2 cost and greater Dressrosa characters by 1. This is a 7 cost Dressrosa character, so yeah, if you're playing Usopp, this will just activate. So you draw a card, then you reveal 2 7 cost or lower Dressrosa characters other than Rebecca from your hand, which is all of your characters. I'm going to show you a 7 cost Kyros in a minute, but it's 7 cost or lower, so that totally works. And then you play one of them, and then if the other's got a cost of 4 or lower, you play it rested. Basically, you play a 7 cost active and a 4 cost rested. Great. Absolutely brilliant. Busted card. I don't know why you would ever make an Usopp deck and not play 4 Rebecca. It's even got a counter, which is so good I would not worry if it didn't have a counter, but it even does. Rebecca's busted. You gotta play it as a 4 of. And then we got ourselves a playset of the aforementioned Kyros. And what we got here is 7 cost 9k, and on play, return a 5 cost or lower to its owner's hand. So it's a big beat stick that then also returns a character to your opponent's hand. It's really good, and it can be played for free by Rebecca, which honestly seems a bit too good, frankly, but hey ho. There's some really good cards in this deck. You can see why it's seeing a bunch of success. Again, cannot stress enough, it is early. There's no guarantee this deck will remain good, but what I'm seeing from early results over in Japan, I'm following a lot of Japanese shops waiting for all these results to come in, and I'm seeing Usopp flashing on my timeline a lot at the moment. This is coming up over and over again. It is a great deck. Now, I do keep telling you about resting your stage. You've got to play Corrida Coliseum. You've got to play Corrida Coliseum in this deck. It is just an absolute no-brainer. And even though you can only play one of them, you've got to play it as a 4 of, because it needs to come out quickly. Partly for all of those skills on your characters that you need to rest your leader or stage to activate. Because if you've got the stage, you can activate 2 of those skills rather than just 1. But also, unlike the Rebecca leader from OP-10, Usopp can attack. So the ideal here is that you're resting your stage, allowing your leader to then be able to attack. It's honestly pretty important, that's why we're playing 4 of them. And honestly, that alone is good enough, but do remember the stage says that your Dressrosa characters, as long as your leader is Dressrosa, which obviously here it is, can attack characters on the turn in which they're played. So you can't, it's kind of like all your Dressrosa characters have rush, but only to attack characters, not the leader. Still awesome. And then there's one event card that we tend to see in this deck. It is Gum Gum Red Rock, which is a 6 cost that puts a character to the bottom of the owner's deck, and as a trigger, puts a 4 cost or less to the bottom of the owner's deck. But the good news is, you're getting rid of one of your opponent's characters. This is just a bit of removal. It is a nice removal card, and the irony is, this is actually a card from OP-10, which gave us a bunch of our Dressrosa cards, but it is not itself a Dressrosa card, it's just Straw Hat Crew. Here's a list as a whole, and like I've said, other than your Jozu here, which is understandable, this entire deck is just Dressrosa. Well, I suppose Gum Gum Red Rock isn't either. And what we've got here is just a very powerful deck, which has got incredible consistency with things like Leo and Rebecca and Cavendish. We've got a whole bunch of removal. We've got a whole bunch of blockers. And your characters also kind of have rush, but are only allowed to attack characters as well. You add all of this up, and oh my word, this deck looks good. I'm not a huge Usopp fan generally, but I do love Dressrosa. So maybe I'll have to be playing around with this deck when OP-10 drops. Either way, all the early signs I'm seeing are that this is a real contender in OP-10 and the best new deck from OP-10. So now it's over to you guys. Do you think this deck is going to end up being a real contender? Do you think it's great? Or do you think it's just a little bit overhyped? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching What He Plays.